Hey everybody, welcome to Choice and Chats with My School Options. My name is Cesar Roman. I am Director of Community Engagement for the My School Options team. The My School Options team is the community engagement team for the Institute for Quality Education. And our mission is to make sure every kid across the state of Indiana receives a high quality education. We do this two ways. We want to empower families to understand what choices and options are available to them, and then use those options to best suit the needs of their children. And we also want to empower families to make sure that they advocate and understand how they can use choices and options to make sure that they are putting their children in the best possible position when it comes to their education. We want to welcome you once again to Choice and Chats. Our topic for tonight is why advocacy matters. And so we've accumulated a wonderful panel here tonight. So I want to, first of all, thank our panel for being here tonight. And we will get to know them in just a minute. I just want to make sure that if you're joining us on Facebook Live, you should go ahead on and please share this out so that we can make sure that as many folks get our content as possible. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for joining us here this evening. And as always, I will pivot over and send it over to my co-host, Eve Gomez. Eve?
Hey, hello there, Cesar. How are you? How's everybody doing today? And happy Thursday to you guys. And it is a wonderful time to be here with everybody. And we're going to go right into it. We're going to be checking in the chat. So if you guys want to have any questions to what you're going to hear today, it's so important to even take notes, right? Because we don't know everything. Well, I'm going to start with our first guest here with our panel. That's Ms. Betsy. She's, she's the Why Advocacy Matters in IQE. Betsy J. Wiley serves as the president and CEO of the Hoosiers for Quality Education, which is IHQE, and the Institute for Quality Education, IQE. Prior to joining the organization in January of 2013, Ms. Wiley served as Governor Mitch Daniels' Deputy Chief of Staff for 6.5 years and as a Director of Cabinet Agency Affairs for the first 18 months of Daniels' administration. In her role, the governor's office, Betsy focused on overseeing the daily operations of state government. She had a lot of responsibilities, obviously, with that, but she also served as a chief deputy treasurer for states of Indiana from February 1999 to January 2004, and in various capacities at the Health and Hospital Corporation of Marion County from 95 to 99. That's a busy person right there. Betsy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for that nice introduction, Eve. It's a good segue into the point I want to make in the couple minutes that I have here at the beginning, which is why I think advocacy is so important and why it's important at IQE. And so, as you just mentioned a little bit about my history, I've spent my entire career in public service. And so I've seen firsthand the difference that advocacy by citizens on issues that they care about can really make in changing policy and in influencing the views of lawmakers. And so oftentimes I think we feel like it's overwhelming that change can't happen in the world of politics because of all the bureaucracy. It's complicated. We don't know where, we don't know how. And advocacy, I think, can give us a little glimpse of hope, a renewed sense, a renewed belief that change is in fact possible in the world of politics. And I've seen it firsthand happen for the better part of 3 decades now. And so why is it important at IQE? And as Cesar mentioned, we're a statewide organization focused on K-12 education and really focused on the fact that we want to make sure that every parent in Indiana knows all their education options, and all those options are available to every family and every kiddo out there, and that they can go wherever they want, whatever's best for that kid. And it's their decision because nobody knows their kiddos better than their family. And so it's important, though, to let legislators know how important that freedom is to families and parents and students. And in different parts of our state, we have different educational options available. Some have Innovation Network charter schools, some have charter schools only, some have private schools, some participate in the voucher program, some don't, some homeschool, some have only traditional public schools, and on and on and on. And in today's crazy world, we have blended learning and virtual learning. And so having the flexibility and advocating for what is best for your kid really makes a difference. And I will tell you the importance of sharing your story and standing up for your child and providing that voice to our lawmakers is easy. And folks on the other side who don't want you to have all those options are doing it all the time. But it's as simple as a phone call to a lawmaker, an email, a letter, going to a town hall meeting. Every lawmaker wants to meet with its constituents. They want to hear what you have to say and what you think and what's important to you, and bring that down to Indianapolis and make change to represent the people that they represent. And that's you all. And so, you know, getting engaged, taking that step, standing up for your kiddos and your beliefs, super important when it comes to K-12 education.
No, thank you, Betsy. I think those are wonderful points. And thank you for sharing the importance of advocacy here tonight and getting us going. We have a pack lined up here. So thank you for being here. And also with us tonight, we have Mr. Sam Centellas from La Casa de Amistad in South Bend, Indiana. Sam, welcome. Sam is the executive director of La Casa de Amistad, a Latino-focused non-for-profit community center on the west side of South Bend. He was born in Santa Cruz, Bolivia, and came to the United States in first grade. Grew up in Michigan, loves cars, and is an engineer by trade, an administrator by training, and an educator by heart. Sam studied engineering communications at Western Michigan University. He worked on concept design studio, working on properties for auto shows around the world, and holds a US patent. Sam, I didn't know that about you. And since joining La Casa in 2013, Sam has doubled their event fundraising income and started their first endowment with the Community Foundation. La Casa has continued to break fundraising and programmatic records each year. Under Sam's leadership, La Casa launched its immigration legal program, New Summer Preschool, South Bend ID program, and helped start Westside Wednesday. Sam is involved in a range of economic development to hazing prevention and leadership development of college students and community organizing. He serves on a number of boards, but I want to get to the questions. And Sam, welcome. Welcome to Choice and Chats. Tell me, Sam, tell us about the work of La Casa.
So one, thank you for the invitation to talk about advocacy. La Casa has been around for over 46 years now. And so a core part of why we've been successful, why we've grown into doing all the things we're doing is because of advocacy work and working hard to empower our families and our community. So La Casa, because we've been around so long, and part of it because of South Bend's weird size, you know, it's big enough to have all the world's problems, but small enough that one center like ours can really kind of get its handle around helping with things. We run a bilingual preschool. We run youth programming during the academic year and in the summertime. We do a myriad of adult programming, and those range from specialized immigrant services like a legal immigration clinic to citizenship classes to help people prepare for naturalization, to basic social services like a food pantry that's busier than ever right now because of COVID, and other family services ranging from utility assistance to just notarizing letters and faxing things for people that aren't able to bridge the digital divide on their own. And so a little bit of everything is what we're doing up here in Northern Indiana.
Yeah, and so what do you say, Sam, are the issues that are most impacting the Latino community in South Bend area or around the state of Indiana in general?
Yeah, I think one, in general, it's hard to generalize, right? Because the community, it can be so different, right? So there's Latinos that have been in this area for their whole lifetime, right? And their parents' whole lifetime. And then there's immigrants. And so we put a lot of our focus work into the immigrant community and folks that also have language barriers. So one of the big issues, and it comes down to that it impacts education, it impacts our advocacy work, is people being able to be informed. And so getting information, getting good information, understanding, you know, what's marketing, what's propaganda, what's fear mongering, what's both. And so we spend a lot of time really, you know, trying to, of course, be bipartisan. We're a nonprofit, so we have to be. It helps us stay true to that. But also just helping communities understand what's happening, what's going on, how XYZ is going to impact them. Sometimes just basically translating stuff, right? Our governor still doesn't put most of his stuff out in Spanish. And so things like that is a challenge to say, how do we get this information to our community? Because once we can get them the information that they need and we can empower them to help make decisions, they're going to do what they believe is best for their families, for their children. It's our job to help make sure that they're informed and engaged, so that they can help improve our community together.
No, thanks for sharing that, Sam. I think that you're right. There's an array of issues that are truly impacting the community, but having a voice, being present, is really at the heart of what advocacy is about. And then speaking for those that don't have a voice, right? I think that one of the things that we find in our work, right, is the lack of awareness as well on issues, and I think that really prohibits people from really entering the arena of advocacy, right? Is them not feeling comfortable, not knowing, and then not feeling comfortable in talking about an issue. So very important work that La Casa does. Eve?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sam, as well. The next panelist, I know her dearly. We've worked together on several projects, and some of you may know who she is as well, is Ms. Janae Beleza is what I'm going to say it, right? Did I say it right?
That's right.
She has a passion for helping and serving others, and I truly am blessed to even call her friend and to do work with her. She has the passion, and of course, if you know her, you know I'm right? She's the IPI's Chief Operating Officer, what motivates her to achieve IPI's vision of thriving families throughout Indiana. She's reared by a single parent after her father's death at age 9. Janae is well acquainted with struggles parents face and is eager to let them know that these struggles are indeed manageable and can be overcome as experienced in her own life. Janae serves on several boards. Just for essence of time, she's done a lot of things, but I would consider you looking her up. She serves on several boards.
I was like, please don't go through everything.
She's a graduate of the Culver Academies in Culver, Indiana. Janae pursued her undergraduate studies in philosophy and business finance in Dartmouth College and at Northwest University. Along with that, she is also part of the governor's cabinet as well, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. Right? That's awesome. Woo-hoo. So welcome, and thank you for being part of this, Ms. Janae.
Thank you. Thank you for considering me. Seriously, Eve. A great lady, Eve. If you don't know about her, you need to look her up too. But I am excited to have this opportunity to share why education and parents' awareness of what their opportunities. We like to say the word rights, but opportunities is really what it's about. If you understand what it is that you're able to do and what power or influence that you have. And that's one of the things that we always work with our families with at Indiana Parenting Institute. Indiana Parenting Institute is a nonprofit founded in Gary, Indiana. We basically work with urban families, but we also work with some rural as well. And it's basically getting them, not just getting them information like Sam said, but it's also showing them how to leverage that. It's one thing to get me information, but if I have no idea what to do with that, then you've just wasted both of our times. So it's really about letting them know, here's this information, how do you work with it so that you can get the best outcome from it. And I find that that's the bulk of what we do with families. Another thing, I was just on a show recently on WLTH, which is a radio station here that Eve has a program on. And I was discussing also that another blockage that some families have is asking questions. I mean, each industry has its terminology. And if you ask the question using terminology, using words that are terms for them, you get yourself in all kind of stuff. And I learned that going downstate and being on these boards and commissions. And so we also work with our parents to show them how to ask questions correctly and to not pull back if you're not getting it. It's just a misunderstanding and to keep going. So that is one of the questions that I think you had asked was about why is there what are the obstacles that are keeping families from advocating? And I think that's it. It's just that you're not sure what you can do and not understanding those two components of leverageability and asking the right questions. You know, if you're not aware of that, it's a huge obstacle because the miscommunication happens. And you know?
And what has you look at what's obstacles and what the families are actually experiencing and why you're advocating. Tell us exactly, what does IPI serve in the Northwest community? What do you do?
We, like I said, we work with our families to let them, we have a family or parent organization called IPAC, the Parent Advisory Council. And basically the things that they learned going through our programming has helped them to be that voice and be a partner with MSO. I'm going to call you guys by your acronym. I don't, My School Options. And so to allow them to understand the leverageability of knowledge. You know, once you know something, how do you leverage it to get the outcomes that you're looking for? And also how to ask the right questions so that you get the answers that you need, that you can do something with those answers. So that's what we do. So as our organization and IPAC are educating parents, going out and talking to them, I think you're going to find more families being able to communicate to get the outcomes that they're looking for, especially around school options, because everybody wants their child educated, because it's that education that increases their market value and allows them to get those good jobs. But I have
So
30
from saying that, you answered part of this question. What is the biggest obstacle that keeps families from advocating? Because I know you're a big advocate, but what keeps the families from doing it?
Knowledge. It's what we don't know that gets us in trouble, period.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. I always say we don't know what we don't know, right?
We don't, exactly.
And so again, to the point of awareness, and as we always say, right, keep it simple as well, right? And don't make whatever subject issue you're talking about something that only you and those that pay attention, 365 days of the year really can understand, right? You really have to be able to communicate a message that rings folks, knowing, right, that as we're all talking about the different issues that we're covering or that we work on, right, knowing that there's a lot of different things that impact our families, right? So it's not just one thing. It often comes with several different things that families need to address before they could even begin to look at themselves as an advocate, right? And so there's I want to just say, to your work, right, Janae, in the work that you do with the Indiana Parenting Institute, I think really lends to that, right, where you're working to empower those families in a way that builds them and skills them up at their level, and makes them feel comfortable when working on behalf of issues. So, just again, thank you, and thanks everybody for the work that you're doing to advocate and to speak on behalf of different issues. I'll pivot over, and I want to also just mention just a brief break. Eve, do we have any questions on our chat room or anything?
No, not yet. I just went and looked, and I want to thank those that are joining us. They're just saying hello, and they're sharing our information with others, and we want to thank them. So, but by all means, if you have any questions to what you're hearing here from my panelists, and you feel it's important that you and others know, because sometimes we may know the answer, but we'll ask the question for someone else that may not know the answer, please jot it down either here in our chat room or on Facebook.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for that reminder. And I just want to also just welcome here tonight our fourth panelist here, Ms. Jasmine Burdett. She is with Rise Indy out of Indianapolis, Indiana, and she is the Director of Strategic Partnerships. In her role with Rise Indy, Jasmine is focused on bringing together diverse voices for a collective voice around education needs and policy. Jasmine earned her Master's of Public Affairs from Indiana University Public School School of Public and Environmental Affairs. During her studies, she also worked in education policy at Masaka Primary School in Uganda. And in this role, Jasmine facilitated the implementation of programs to bolster student learning and teacher pay. Jasmine served for nearly 4 years in the mayor's office in Indianapolis, Office of Education and Innovation, where she helped oversee the performance and accountability for over 30 charters with 40 plus locations across Indianapolis. So incredible work, the work of Jasmine. And so welcome here tonight, Jasmine.
Thank you so much for having me, Caesar. I'm truly blessed to be among such distinguished panelists. So thank you so much again for having me. At Rise, we are really focused on engaging, educating, and organizing around education policy. So in this work, we really value directly connecting with community members, whether it be community leaders, whether that be faith leaders, leaders in the private sector, parents, students, principals. It is really everyone, because it takes all voices to impact these education conversations. And we see today now more than ever that we need more advocates talking about education. Even if you don't have children, education is the greatest equalizer that anyone can have. Education is what separates us from opportunities, Janae, to the point that you mentioned, and not having opportunities, and dealing with cycles of generational poverty. So I just wanted to take a step back to share a little bit of my story and why it's so important to me, because I did grow up in a low-income neighborhood in Austin, Texas. And growing up in that neighborhood, help was always seen as police cars coming in or the ambulance coming into my neighborhood. It was never seen as, oh my gosh, this policymaker really cares about us. They really care about my neighborhood. I rarely saw policymakers that looked like me. And so I didn't really understand how to activate and how to create change. And because of that, you see cyclical generational problems. So because I was able to go to school and achieve higher, I had teachers that believed in me, which goes right on back to education. It is the educators that are pouring into our students that are going to be the ones to encourage them to go further. So we really need strong leadership in these schools that are building up teachers to be able to educate all students, no matter what their background is. And further, we need policymakers that are going to be able to make decisions that impact all students. So I often think about students that look like me, students that come from a similar background that I did, and how we hold policymakers accountable to make change. At RISE, we're really focused on the local level to create change, starting with upcoming school board elections. So whether you have children or not, whether you're in Indianapolis or not, it is imperative that you get engaged at every level, but it's super simple, to Betsy's point, to start even at the local level. Tuning in to your local school board conversations to really understand what they're talking about. Again, even if you don't have children, this is therein where the problem lies. It starts with education. I am consistently mourning the fact that just this year during a global pandemic, we have had far too many police shootings of Black people, and we need allies that are going to stand in the gap and say, hey, I am with you. Hey, I am advocating for our children, for all of them, because this is traumatic to repeatedly see this. So I urge everyone who is listening today, if you take anything away from this conversation, it's to get engaged. We have to get up and get engaged and make sure we have strong leadership, because that's the only way that we're going to see change. That's the only way that we will stop seeing these murders, that we'll stop seeing the gaps that we see in opportunities. I saw a quote today that said only 40% of US students have utilized online learning in these last 2 months. Education is supposed to be free and public. The fact that 60% have not had any education in the last 2 months is abysmal to me. And in Indianapolis alone, in Center Township, almost 50% of families do not have access to internet.
And that is true. That is truly hurting a lot of families, Jasmine. And I think you may have touched somebody's nerve, and I hope that you have in what you just mentioned, because it is so important. But we need to advocate for those, but show them also the families, which is why we're here today, to teach our families why it's so important that they need to advocate, not just you community leaders, not just the not-for-profit organizations, but the parents, right? And with that, because of the essence of time, I want to ask a general question to each and every one of you. And thank you for sharing this important information, Ms. Jasmine. We need to bring you back. This general question is to all of you. Why does advocacy matter? And I'm sure some of you, as Jasmine, kind of already touched on that. Anyone that wants to answer that question first, by all means, just unmute yourself. Why does advocacy matter?
I'll start. You know what? It matters because policymakers actually care what their citizens think. And if you don't share with them your beliefs on important issues, like Jasmine was just talking about, in terms of the, unprecedented and quite honestly ridiculous number of shootings and crime we've had going on during this pandemic in Indianapolis, if you don't share with them what what you think and what is bothering you and what you believe they need to address, and perhaps even how they might be able to best address it, it's never going to change. Just as important as, we talked about education being the differentiator, they need to be educated too on the issues and the solutions in your community. Somebody raised earlier, like, what's the big barrier? Another one I think is, maybe a little bit of fear or lack of self-confidence. And all I can say is, if an issue is important to you, it's important enough to share with anybody else.
Thank you. That's very important. And of course, Janae is also piggybacking what you're saying and what you, Jasmine, have said. We need to get involved. I'm a parent, but we need to really get involved, period, in all sense of the word involved, because this, as you mentioned, Jasmine, not everybody has children, but they sure do pay tax dollars towards those schools, towards education.
It does take a village to raise our children. It does take a
certainly
village.
Does.
Does anybody want to answer that last question, Sam or Janae? You want to give it a shot for a minute?
I was just going to throw out, Sam, if you don't mind, I'll make it really short, that I look at advocacy as your voice. And so if you don't advocate, you're not sharing your voice with other people. So how can I know what you need, what is wrong, if you don't vocalize it for me? So if you think of advocacy as your voice, then you can understand the importance of it. If I don't advocate, then I'm not utilizing my voice. And that's kind of one of the conversations that we have with our parents as well. And so the fear component sometimes is that you think that you're going to speak and no one will listen to you. It doesn't mean no one will listen to you. Some people won't, but you keep talking, you keep utilizing that voice until someone who is willing to hear you hears you and will help you.
No, thank you, Janae. Sam?
Thank you.
Yeah, the other big one for us is just putting everything into context from your viewpoint and trying to see from other people's viewpoint. I'm a master's degree educated executive, and I have trouble understanding things about either laws or processes or advocacy or school choice, right? Regardless of whatever it is you're talking about. And so then helping somebody who's new to town, new to this country, speaks a different language, is an additional barrier. So we can't be like, how come you aren't speaking up about that? We're like, I don't even know what that is. And so it's about educating, and then saying, well, what do you think about it? And the other example then we use is we say, any question you have, I know 10 other parents have the same question. So give it to us so we could start that conversation. And then the last one that we talk a lot to our parents, like I always, when we do our introductions and things, I always tell them that every great idea started with, this might be a stupid question, but, and then whatever question is, you're like, God, why didn't we think of that?
Right.
And so then we're able to address that and go, that's it. And some of it, sometimes there's low hanging fruit too. And so, we use that as examples for them to know, like, yes, my voice, that does make a difference. And sometimes in a little way, and sometimes in a huge way.
Yeah, and I thank you. And if I may ask for just as I know we got a couple minutes left, but I want to add to what Sam was just saying and piggyback to Sam, because I'm an advocate for those that don't speak the language. Even those that do speak the language, they don't know their rights. They don't know their opportunities, that they can go into the school and say, hey, you can't talk to my child unless I'm present. If he or she got in trouble, because they can intimidate their child and they can actually make them feel guilty. And they said they declare guilty to something that they probably weren't even knowing that they were guilty of, if you will. And so we have to also speak for those that don't speak the language. Some schools don't want the parents to have a voice because they don't know the language. They feel better that way because now they don't have that voice. And then they see Janae or they see myself or someone that speaks Spanish, or like Sam, we come in and try to, and not try, but we do advocate for the parents. They kind of like frown on that, but now they have to listen, right? Because now we're with the parent, right? But that's also teaching the parents that they have a voice, that they can advocate for them, which is why I think it's important for people to follow MSO, to learn what they need to know, right?
Absolutely. No, and with that, Eve, thank you very much, everybody, for being here tonight. I just want to also just mention along those lines, as we talk about advocacy, I want to welcome everybody to join us for our advocacy programming beginning on June 11th at 7 p.m. You can register at our using our Facebook page. We will be presenting The Leader in You, El Líder en Ti. It will also be in Spanish, and we'll also be having an English edition. It's an introduction to advocacy program. It's a 3-week program, and we invite you across Indiana to join us in this effort to make sure that you understand the power of you and the power of your voice. So along with that, I want to thank once again our panel for being here tonight. And I want to thank you for really taking your time and joining us one more time for Choice and Chats. I really have enjoyed this wonderful conversation. And I want to welcome you to join us again in 2 weeks for The Leader in You at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please tune in then. Make sure you follow us and like us on Facebook and share this with others so that they can enjoy this content. Again, thank you very much and have a wonderful and safe evening, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Hasta luego. Nos vemos.
Gracias. Nos
Next
vemos pronto.
time.
Thank you.
Igualmente. Hasta luego. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye now.